Hey friend, welcome to Memory Verse Monday. I am so happy that you're here. And if this is your first time, I'm especially happy that you're here. And I want you to subscribe so that you never miss a video, which I release every Monday. We study the word. We get into just a verse, just a little bite-sized nugget of what God is speaking to us, what he wants us to carry throughout our week. And so today we're reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 and 9. It's timely for me right now. It's actually a verse when I first heard it many years ago. I didn't remember it word for word, but I remember the gist of it. And I have thought about it often just to self-encourage. And recently I shared it with my son, and I'll talk about that after we read. But let's jump in. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 and 9. It says, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." This is why it stuck with me all those years ago, because at that time in my life, I was going through the lows of just not knowing what I was supposed to do, not knowing what was ahead. And I felt all these ways. I felt hard pressed on every side. But the Bible tells us here, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. As believers, we are not crushed even when we feel hard pressed from all directions. We feel overwhelmed. We feel consumed. We feel weary. We feel weak. We feel afraid. But we're not crushed. We have such strength and endurance and resilience because we are believers and we know who lives in us. We are perplexed, but we're not in despair. How many times have you felt so confused about your situation or the timing of what's going on in your life? Uncertain about why things are happening the way they are or what lies ahead. That is so common for all of us, but it should not put us in despair. Again, as believers, we have to walk with the confidence and the trust in God's plan and God's timing. So we can be perplexed. It'll happen so many times throughout our life, but that should not allow us to or lead us to fall into despair. Never. It says we are persecuted, but not abandoned. So many times, I don't know about you, but I know even for myself not too long ago, where I have felt persecuted, unfairly judged for something, or unfairly, I want to say convicted. I always have trouble with coming up with the right word at the right moment. I can't think of it. It's driving me crazy. It starts with a C. Maybe Joelle will jump in and save the day again. But when people, what is a word? It's not convict. It's accuse. Wasn't even with the C. Oh my gosh. Accuse you of things that you know are not true or right, and yet you kind of are afraid of other people's perceptions, right? Or the impact of those accusations or those judgments. But as believers, as children of God, sons and daughters, we are never abandoned. So when we have God on our side, we don't have anything to worry about. We can set ourselves free from any care or concern about what other people are saying, what other people are thinking or assuming. We don't have to care. That is none of our business. We are with God. We walk with God. He's in us. He never leaves us or forsakes us. So we can be persecuted all day long, but we are never abandoned. And that is powerful, just knowing that. It goes on to say, we are struck down, but not destroyed. Yeah, sometimes we get knocked down. Things happen, things go wrong, they don't go our way, and we can feel like we have to start back at square one or start all over or just pick up the pieces. But we are not destroyed. Destroyed is done, gone, over with, right? We are not destroyed. It's impossible when we are walking with God and walking out the will and the ways of God. So I just love this so much. And like I said earlier, I shared this with my son who is going through his own journey with his soccer career. He is just turned 16, but I cannot tell you how committed and dedicated this boy is to getting better every single day. It's crazy. I mean, he is out in that backyard up to an hour on his own, training every day. in addition to training with a private trainer like 5 days a week, in addition to team practice 4 to 5 days a week. It's insane. He has a vision and a passion like I've never seen before. And there's been some real challenges that he's had to face and endure. And I'm always just praying for God to keep him encouraged and confident that it's God's plan, God's timing, God's will, God's way, all those things. But I shared this scripture with my son, and I hope it encouraged him the way that it has encouraged me. And, you know, in so many different situations and times in my life, I've needed to think back on this verse. One of the things is, as an entrepreneur, newly, I would say in the last few years, just it's hard. It's hard being an entrepreneur. And I have one of my best friends who we have this conversation all the time, but we have to pick ourselves back up and be reminded of this very truth. And I'm going to read it one more time. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 and 9. We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. We have God in us. We have God on our side. We have God with us. He goes before us in all things. We don't have to feel any of these things to the point of feeling crushed or destroyed or abandoned. That'll never happen. It's impossible. And so I hope that encourages you today. And that's it. I'll leave it right there. Thank you so much for being here. Remember to like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're not already, share it with a friend, do all the things, and I will see you here again next week. Be blessed.